So I think we've got an enormous opportunity to build a bioeconomy, a forest economy, a soil economy, where we're incentivizing the forestry sector to replant billions of new trees to support both a growing construction sector using more timber in our buildings, but also to be sequestering more carbon in standing forest and providing the recreation activities and amenities that come with beautiful standing forest. We can do the same with soils and working with farmers. And so there's lots we can learn from the renewable sector in terms of how rapidly that grew, with aligning government policy and political will with entrepreneurs, technologists and investors, the crucial role of finance to actually build a new sector.
We've got to give people the correct belief that we can sort this out. And I just kind of go back to my kind of early days at Friends of the Earth when we were talking about solar panels and wind turbines. Everybody thought we were mad. It can never happen. It's too expensive. It doesn't work. And now we're in a world where everybody thinks this is going to take off like a rocket, and it is doing. And the reason it's happening is because people did it. And so I think for all of us in this world, this new piece about ecosystem carbon, let's find the good examples in forestry, in farming, in coastal protection, co-benefits for water. Let's start sharing those. And then this mythology that it's too expensive, it can't be done, it's inconvenient, it evaporates because everyone sees that it can be done and then it will be done.
In terms of meeting the Paris climate change targets, obviously halting deforestation, improving the quality of our soils so that you've got rich soils acting as a carbon capture, protecting our peat bogs as well, which are very important. These are all things that can play a role.
So the forestry and agricultural sectors are absolutely crucial if we're going to meet the Paris climate change targets. Within the forestry sector, continuing to move towards sustainable and legal forestry models, so balancing the need to conserve forests and also see them as a productive asset. And then within the agricultural sector, making sure that again their practices don't impinge on forests, but equally are climate smart.
We see that there's an incredible contribution that the construction industry can make by using timber construction and storing carbon as opposed to spending carbon as we do with concrete construction. And we've done a rough calculation that a traditionally built concrete home probably has a carbon footprint of 21 tonnes. Conversely, a CLT or a timber constructed house will have a negative carbon footprint of 19 tonnes. Now if you take that 40 tonnes and multiply it over the number of homes that we need, we're using the figure of 300,000 homes a year, that ends up at 12 million tonnes of CO2 that we could save as opposed to building in concrete, and that's equivalent of taking 2.5 million cars off the road.
I mean, we are seeing innovation across the global environment and across the value chain. There is a lot of innovation happening in plantation forestry to increase the productivity and also environmental soundness of plantations. We see a lot of innovation in wood industries, creating new type of products for construction uses. And then we have a lot of innovation in new biomaterials like bioplastics and biocomposites, which are going to play an increasing role in the markets.
We're at the front end of a change in building technology that is as substantial as the change 100 years ago with the emergence of concrete. What happened with concrete when it was first implemented is people repeated the building forms that were around them and did them in concrete, and then a new architecture and a new urbanism emerged, and we're obviously very familiar with the architecture and the urbanism of the 20th century. And the thing that excites us is we're already 10, 12 years into the timber century, the age of timber. We're seeing this phenomenal explosion of beautiful timber architecture. And I think that if that's the first 12, 15 years, what are we going to see by 2050?
Last week I spent some time in the forests of the southern United States looking at the many competing interests on the ground there. And one area of innovation that I thought was quite exciting was the rise of the wood pellet industry at a time when there's a declining demand for pulp for newspaper. And this is helping to build livelihoods and maintain value for forests on the landscape, rather than those areas being converted to corn or cotton, at the same time as being able to supply sustainable energy and also looking at ways in which wildlife populations can be sustained. So the innovation really is not simply in the forestry, it's in the economics, it's in the people, it's in the landscape.